That's fine. It's been-
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say, I was like,
Yeah. But you're gonna probably have the same.
We're on.
Right.
Yeah.
We're on.
Looking good. Thank you, Jim.
I'd like to call to order this school district of Sturgeon Bay Board of Education meeting. Would you please rise for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Boy, it's great hearing all the little voices say it too. That's pretty nice. That's good. That's good. Mr. Reese, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Wood,
Here.
Commissioner House. Here. Commissioner Chisholm. Here. Commissioner Jenner John. Here. Commissioner Stefani.
Here.
Commissioner Cruz will be arriving a little bit later. Commissioner Howard and Commissioner Schultz
Here.
and Commissioner Sprigga.
Next, we have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, noting.
A couple of things, yep, as usual, we'll have closed session tonight, so we'll make that in the motion. And what we agreed in talking with President Stefani and Mrs. Demise and myself, because it's the hiring time of years, you see there was some of the updates, and then one even scratched since we thought it was updated yesterday. All right, so rather than have those removed and risk messing up the order of the agenda where someone's 7 becomes 6 and all those types of things, we're just gonna have you approve it as presented, even though, as we'll touch on in a couple of these, you won't have an approval tonight. But I think there's roughly 3 of them that will look to hopefully have an approval or a recommendation from a director or principal next month for the June meeting. But I think probably, yeah, so again, we can move on to that and then note that we're going into full session.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Noting that we will be going into closed session 19.851C. Considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. 1, consideration of non-teacher compensation not already covered through action earlier in the meeting. Number 1, select food service employee compensation. Number 2, individual request for a returning unclassified employee. Action may take place in closed session on closed session topics, and we will return to session.
Thanks. And the note I forgot to mention with the hiring piece is we have their special guests here tonight, and as we did once before with that special presentation, normally that's an operations agenda item, but moving that up to immediately following the public comments section. Okay, you're agreeable that Vice President Jenner John?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a motion to adopt the agenda with those stipulations. We are going to be going to closed session 19.85, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. 1, consideration of non-teacher compensation not already covered through action earlier in the meeting. Subpoint 1, select food service employee compensation, and 2, individual requests from a returning unclassified employee. Action may take place in closed session on closed session topics. Then we will return into open session. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we are down to, is this the very last one, Christy?
It is.
This is our student council representative, which can we just give a round of applause for all of you? He's been coming to these meetings and sometimes having to listen to some things that we talk about that she obviously would probably want to be anywhere else, but she's put up with us for a year. So thank you very much. So tell us what's going on.
Well, you might notice I have some guests with me. So the results came in and next year Kirsten Mullen is going to be our student council president. And Libby is going to be our vice president.
Nice.
You should probably give them a round. of
Yeah.
applause.
We will be kind.
So other than that, we've officially wrapped up student council for the year. We had our last meeting this morning, actually. And we started making some plans for next year. We've got some volunteering activities already coming up with the Century Ride we do every year. And that brings in a lot of our funding for all of our activities. And then we've also decided on a homecoming theme, which is going to be fall fever. Right? And Kirsten will tell you more about that in September. As for me, I guess I enjoyed my time on the board and I'm thankful for this opportunity. And I'm sure Kirsten and Libby are going to do a great job next year. So,
Nice.
Thank you.
So Christy, obviously, even though we tried to talk you into a 5th year of high school eligibility, you know, you are moving on to the next chapter. And while you've had a chance to talk with the board a little bit about that, when I ask you questions throughout the year for the benefit of our audience. So what are you doing next year?
I'll be going to Madison to study biochemistry. I'm super excited. Definitely ready to move on.
Gets to that point in life, right? We know you'll do well, to say the least. Board members, you haven't actually heard the last of Christy yet, even though it's her last official board meeting. Because on this thing we call graduation, which I know a number of you have a variety of interest in, right? A couple of dads, maybe to my right, for example, among others. Christy will be, of course, one of our speakers as our valedictorian, so she'll be addressing the class and the faculty and board in attendance and whatnot. So we'll hear from her. And just before we're ready to let her off the hot seat for one last time, Mrs. Demise had found something, and we talked about it, I think, last fall, Mrs. Demise, didn't we? And we said, you know, this would be a perfect little way to send Christy off on her last board meeting in May. And this is actually a school board recognition, very brief write-up from someone many of us know, Ann Schmagel, who was once a principal in our district at the elementary level. And I'm going to read this about once upon a time, someone who was in 3rd grade, Christy. Christiana Braun is an exemplary 3rd grader. She enjoys every aspect of learning and frequently seeks out extra credit for the sake of learning. She's helpful to others and is a vital part of our 3rd grade class. Christy has been selected as our 2nd Sunrise Ambassador for the classroom. Christy is very deserving of being recognized for her outstanding academic and social success. Christy has an affinity for the color green, which may or may not influence her success. And it says, great job, Christy. So even back in 3rd grade, and probably before that, she was receiving well-deserved congratulations. Christy, we thank you for everything you've done for extracurriculars and academics here in the district and at the high school. We know you're going to do great, and we look forward to hearing more on graduation day.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks again. So as always, you know, you do something else for the rest of the night. You don't have to hang out here.
Study or, yeah, whatever.
Well, all of you, you can have a good night. Next, we have the public comment section, so we're gonna do the recognition after that. Do I have anyone, public comment section that would like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we are gonna go down to the kind of recognition of.
Yes, our literacy showcase. So teachers, Director Weber, et cetera. However, I know you have this all lined up as all good elementary teachers do. So I will turn it over to the team. So board, as you see in the write-up while they're getting set, we're going to see a condensed version of what's called a 95% group phonics lesson. They're aware we have time constraints with everything tonight, but this is important and been a lot of priority at the board level for the past few years. And so we're excited to welcome not only some of our staff members, but of course, some very special students. I'll turn it over to you, ladies. Thanks for being here.
All right, 95% group provides 30 lessons of explicit phonics instruction. Each lesson is 5 days long and focuses on one or two of the 6 syllable types and spelling patterns. Activities change throughout the week, so student engagement stays high.
In this activity, you will see students using phonological awareness to manipulate the sounds in words to create new words. Research shows this is an essential skill for moving between speaking and spelling, as well as reading aloud. This activity is the opener every day in phonics, and students are able to add, delete, or substitute sounds to make new words.
All right, third graders, are you ready? All right, we're gonna practice adding or deleting a sound from the beginning or end of a word. Eyes on me. Here we go. Say sleeve. Sleeve. Delete s from the beginning. Word. Yes. Say star. Star. To the end. Word. Yes. Say spark. Spark. Delete s from the beginning. Word. You got it. Say rug. Rug. Say, excuse me, add sh to the beginning. Word. Yes. Third grade students have learned to break words into syllables by first underlining the vowels, then looking at the consonants between the vowel sounds to determine where to break the word into syllables. Having this knowledge allows students to identify the syllable types, which tells them how to pronounce the syllable. These skills are necessary for both reading, which is decoding, and spelling, which is encoding. All right, ladies and gents, we're going to read and sort syllables. Here are the steps we're going to follow to read and sort those syllables. You're going to find the vowels and underline them. Draw a V connecting the vowels. If there's a silent E pattern, count all the consonants between the vowels and determine where to draw a line to divide the syllables. And we're going to say the syllable type and show those gestures. Say the vowel sound and read the syllable. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Our first word is up on the board. What vowel letter should we underline here? Sam. Got it. Uh-oh, my clicker doesn't work. There we go. Now looking between our vowel sounds, how many are there? Two. That means how many syllables are in the word? Two. Let's look between our vowel sounds, between the O and the first E. How many consonants do you see? Two. Good. An N and a V. Where are we going to split? In the You got it. Here we go. Now we're going to look at these syllables and we're going to determine the type. Tell me what type of syllable they are, and we're going to show the gesture. You ready? First syllable. Syllable type and gesture. Vowel sound is always short. What does it say? What category? You got it. How about the second syllable? Syllable type and gesture. Vowel sound says. Syllable says. Where do we put it? Silent. Got it. Here's word number 2. What vowels should we underline? Yeah, you got it. All right, look, how many how many vowel sounds are there? 3. So how many syllables do we have? 3. Let's look between the first 2 vowel sounds. We've got how many consonants? 3. N, S, and F. Where should we break it? Oh, I forgot the both the answers. Come on. How about this between the last 2 vowel sounds? O, R, and ER. Where should we break it? You got it. Nice job. All right, looking at the first syllable. Syllable type and gesture. It says, syllable says. What column do we put it under? Yes. Second syllable. Syllable type and gesture. Where should we put it? Syllable. Syllable type and gesture. Syllable says. Sorry, I forgot that on the last one. And what column do we put it under? We're gonna do one more. Nope, that's it. I'm sorry. We're gonna skip it.
All right, so you're going to see students reviewing 2 of the 6 syllable types. Notice the students and teacher using the hand gestures to represent each type of syllable.
All right, before we start, we're going to review our syllable types that are going to be in these words. Our first syllable type is closed. Will you read the pattern with me? The vowel sound in a closed syllable is always, and the gesture is. You got it. Our second syllable type is long vowel silent. E. Say the pattern with me. In this syllable type, the vowel sound is always. The gesture is. All right, here we go. You don't need your clipboards for this part. Remember, you need your hands. Here we go. First syllable, get your hands ready for gestures. The next slide is a challenge slide. So we see 3 or 4 syllables. This is really fun. We just got 3 words on this one. Here we go. First syllable. Last one. All right. Word chains are a 3rd grade favorite. To create a word chain, students listen to a word, compare it to a connected word. They determine what has changed between the 2 words, a syllable change, an addition, or a deletion. All right, 3rd grade. We're going to start with the word conduct. Add that to your syllable chain. CONDUCT. Conduct. Now let's change conduct to induct. Which syllable is going to change? First, we're going to change from con to in. Let's spell it. Got it. Let's change induct to product. What syllable will change? From in to pro. How do we spell that? And our last word in our word chain, from product to produce. What syllable is going to change? The second. Let's spell it. PRODUC. So we're done. That's it. That's a very abbreviated version of what we do for about 45 minutes every morning.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we give the students a round of applause for coming out? Can we have you stand up there? Any moms or dads that want a picture of them up front, feel free. Who knows how many more times you might be at a school board meeting, right? Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's a good shot.
Oh, that's a good one right there. It's a good looking group.
Yeah.
Yeah, parents, feel free there. Slide on your way. You can slide up to the table. Awesome. Thank you, boys and girls. Thank you, teachers. Good job. Can always get any additional context from Director Weber a little later on, or our principals. The board members, you've heard a ton about literacy in recent years. You've heard the teachers present to you in learning sessions. I think both Principal Smullen, right? And then Director Weber and I corresponded about an article I saw in kind of my hometown where they did something similar. Just very briefly in a board meeting, gave you a little snapshot involving the kiddos and what they're actually working on all the time, rather than always the nice updates from the teachers and coaches, which are great too. So we thought we'd build that in kind of in place of the regular student recognition tonight. So there's the showcase for you. Again, thanks for coming, families. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have board reorganization. So here we go. We do this for newer. We do this we do this every year. This is part of the May meeting. So basically this is a review, the policy of 0152 officers and determination nomination boarding process. Yeah, you got it.
Take team inside. All right, so how this works, because we all don't look at policy all the time, and even some of this, usually what happens, we're a little rusty, then we kind of get into it, because we only do this once a year. right? But from our board policy, really that series that governs board matters. It reads as follows: the board shall elect from its members a president, vice president, treasurer, and a clerk. Such election shall occur on or within 30 days of the fourth Monday in April, right, when the new terms begin. Election of officers shall be by a majority of voting members. Secret ballots may, this was something we reviewed again a few years ago with COVID and going electronically, may be utilized only for election of officers where no such majority exists on the first ballot vote. A second vote can be cast for the two candidates who receive the greatest number of ballot votes. I'll also note, bless you, that although it doesn't say it right here, we know that if we have on the first ballot, in essence, the same person listed, right, then often someone basically just mentions, hey, move to cast a unanimous ballot, we're kind of off the running there. It says, except for the appointed to fill a vacancy, officers shall serve for 1 year until the respective successors are elected. So in essence, right, every May, per our own, again, governing guidelines, if you will, our board policy, we have the reorganizational meeting, which again, gets into these and a few other things. What other things? That's where there's the A, B, C, D. I won't read it word for word, right? But A deals with depositories of school funds. B deals with designating persons authorized to do the following things there. C, in essence, designating a day, place, time for our meetings. Again, traditionally the third Wednesday of the month, with occasional exception in October and January usually. And then again, designating someone to assume responsibilities as needed there. So that's kind of outlining for us what we're about to do in number 2. And we'll start with the election of president. President Stefani, we good there so far?
Yep.
All right. So we have nomination papers. Yep, there's a little, what, a third of a slip, I think. So Jake and I will pop up and be ready to get those from you. So first we'll start with nominating a current member of the board to serve for the next year as our president.
So we all individually write a name down, no one just says that like run for president.
Correct. And the person, sometimes we review the person current, well, you all know this, the person currently serving as our board president is of course, Commissioner Stefani.
Regular. We've never had any hanging chat with none. No. That's it. Oh, there. I do remember.
Since it involves the president, I will show both the president and the vice president that we have all slips with the name Stefani on there.
Not yet. I'll do it next. You can write it down now.
So now.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close nominations, casting unanimous ballot for Mike Stefani as president.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to close nomination, cast unanimous ballot for Mike, this is weird saying, as board president. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So you're stuck with me another year. Now we are gonna do the same thing for the vice presidentship. And that's currently to my left.
Your left hand.
Yeah, my left
And
hand,
your
yes,
left hand.
yes. Sitting in.
Oh, the over under is like.
Oh, your trip. Yeah, it is. I couldn't even remember.
Interchangeable.
Yeah.
And we have all slips for Tina Jenner.
Okay, all right.
There is the sample wording if somebody wants to do the ballot. That's the unanimous.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to close nominations and cast unanimous ballot for Tina Dennison as vice president.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Woods, seconded by Commissioner Chisholm to close nominations and cast unanimous vote for Tina Jenner as vice president. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. All right. Now we're down to treasurer, who is, or excuse me, clerk. Oh, we're gonna go in order. Okay, I was going in order.
Well, so you have the notes. I think I flip flop those.
All right, so let's do clerk next. Currently, our clerk is Beth. So. You're. You. Do I have a motion? Or wait, they're telling, sorry. I'm like,
Because you said we never had a hanging Chad this time. No.
yeah.
No, we have all four.
All for, that's just for Beth Chisholm, all right? Now, can I request a motion?
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make a motion to close nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Beth Chisholm as clerk.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Haas and seconded by Commissioner Dinnerjohn. And I just want to point out, first time, right, for a motion, nice job. Do we have further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Beth, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we are nomination for treasurer. Currently, our treasurer is Commissioner Wood on the end of the row here. Yeah. Yeah.
Amy left the room.
Yep, we have unanimous nomination. Do I have a motion from anyone to close?
A motion to close the nomination and cast unanimous ballot for Roger Wood as treasurer.
Second, all right, and that's Mr. Smith, Wayne's first, second, or first, or what have you, so congratulations. We have a motion made and seconded for Roger Wood as treasurer. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're down to appoint a board secretary. I think we have to do each of these individually, obviously.
Yep.
So,
Mrs. Demise, who serves currently as the board secretary. Mrs. Demise does. Okay.
I will make a motion to appoint Ms. Demise as our board secretary.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to appoint Ms. Demise as our board secretary. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. And now we are to the CISA representative. Yeah, that's,
I'm just having a moment myself.
we're gonna
Ask
need,
you today.
let's maybe cover what the responsibility.
mean?
Yeah, it's not a big deal, so go ahead.
Yeah, that's only about 52 meetings a year. One year, no, wait a minute. Typically one meeting a year at the start of summer, yeah, for their annual, we just talked about that this last Not that long ago. So down at CISA, there is a meeting, there's an annual convention, each board is supposed to have someone. And then CISA does send out some things monthly, and it's like, well, often Jake or I can cover those things, but if a person has information they want to share on behalf of CISA, they can do that. I feel like there's something else that I'm totally drawing a blank on at this moment.
Can you say what
For-
CISA is?
The CISA 7, it's located just off of Night and Columbia.
Yeah, just off kind of 172 there, yep, down in that industrial area, just west of the river in Green Bay. Yeah, so it's what, 55 minutes from here, I should know that, I drive once a month. Yeah, there's really that convention that one evening. And again, if someone's set to go and something comes up with life, it's not like our board's in trouble because the person couldn't make it.
Yeah, we've had years where that didn't happen. Obviously, there was nothing for a couple of years of COVID. It's literally a meeting a year, so.
The CISA, to the acronym, right, we have sometimes too many acronyms and I try to run interference for you on that, but it's Cooperative Educational Service Agency. We are members here in Northeast Wisconsin out of the Green Bay office, CISA 7, just south of CISA 7 out of Oshkosh would be CISA 6, and you get the idea. The state's divided into, I think it's a dozen different CISA agencies. So you'll see as a part of the board, and again, some people are more used to this than others, I realize, right? Every year we'll approve a CISA 7 contract, and then we also utilize some services out of CISA 6 and 8, depending on what we need. So that's pretty much it. Not 52 meetings, typically one meeting.
2 board members that aren't here.
There is that.
You could volunteer.
Well, I told, that's good.
It would be neither the first nor the last time, probably.
Anybody wanna say, hey, to do it? Anyone?
More volunteers.
Or volunteer? That's what Angie gets for missing the meeting.
Or Damien, yeah.
Yeah, Damien. All right,
Is it out to explain who's the other ones that they did last year?
say again. I'm sorry.
Would it help to know on the following ones who's did
Yeah,
one of these
Yeah,
last year?
let's talk about that.
So Roger was our legislative representative last year, Jake was our EEN representative, and Beth was our delegate to the WASB convention.
Well,
Thank you, Mrs.
I'm all for appointing them.
You are the president.
I can take this
You
CISA.
can take that?
I've worked with other capacities of CISA, but not
Yeah,
school capacity, right? So energy and things like that. And
Sure.
in different roles, so.
perfect. Wayne, thank you.
Thank you. Wayne.
Do we have a motion to,
Make a motion to appoint Wayne Spritka as the CISA representative for 2023 and 4.
Okay.
School year.
second?
Yeah.
You're gonna second?
Second.
Yeah, excellent. We have a motion, and a second to appoint Wayne Spritka as our CISA representative. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those who in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Wayne. Roger, could we lean on you again for red?
But sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's.
okay, good. Could someone make a motion?
Make a motion to appoint Roger Wood as legislative representative for the 2023 and 24 school year.
Second.
Excellent. Commissioner Schultz made a motion to appoint, and it was seconded by Commissioner Chisholm to appoint Roger Wood as our legislative representative. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you very much, Roger. Appreciate it. Jake?
I just need to know what I'm missing on this deal, because I did 0 things with it last year in all matter of transparency with the community.
Yeah, no, that's,
fine.
you didn't miss anything. So
Talking about the WASB
historically,
convention?
there had been,
Yeah.
yeah, the EEN piece, kind of regulate, exceptional educational needs. We refer to special education now, right? We hear updates from Lindsay and others, but especially Lindsay. So historically, there had been a countywide meeting, which I think maybe happened once, twice since I've been on board. Sharon Sanderson said that it had been more of a regular thing.
Okay.
Certainly Lindsay on behalf of our district works regularly with the other special education directors. They're in contact, just like the principals are and so forth. However, there hasn't been in recent history some sort of meeting along those lines.
Okay.
So I think theoretically, as we look to the next year and some of the things you've been hearing from Lindsay as far as a partnership we have with the county and some of those things around that alternative programming. If it would ever be a situation because of where all of the county districts are welcome, but not all for various reasons, either chose to or were able to commit to joining on. I could see at some point where maybe, again, probably the administration can handle it. But I could see us getting to a point where, oh, maybe there's a reason a county-wide group has a meeting, and then it would be important to, have someone like you maybe sit in as a board member of our district.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
That's what all I can think of right now with that.
Before we go any further, Lindsay, can I just ask you a question just on it? You don't have to get up or anything.
That's asleep.
I mean, is this a thing that you think, if you had to guess, do you think this is gonna continue on, or do you think it's kind of floundering, or?
I think that we do two separate ones kind of informally already.
Okay.
CETA has a larger regional meeting for directors of special education. But if we were ever to branch off and do the work that Dan was describing, it's like the county-wide project, which we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I could see that as being added value for a board member from each of our districts to attend. We're just not quite there yet.
Okay, can you just do us a favor in the next year? At some point, just talk with Dan about, hey, this is going on, or that maybe this is not going on. Just because we won't even do this then on, if it's defunct, then we'll just take it off this so we don't spend time on it.
I don't feel
Fair
like
enough.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You
All
are
right.
not doing your job.
All right, so in the interest of this, we still, I think, should formally do the motion for Jake on it. So could someone please give me a motion?
I'm up to appoint Jake Schultz as the EEN representative. For the 23-24 school year.
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion by Commissioner Jenner John, second by Commissioner Wood to appoint Jake Schultz as the EEN representative for the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now we are down to appointment of a delegate and alternate for the WASB convention. Could we refresh our memories who we have?
Currently me. It was Beth and the alternate was Jake.
Okay,
The dates for this next school year's convention are January 16 to 19 of 2024, which sounds a little funny to say, bless you. So again, as a reminder, we'll get into it in just a moment, but we wouldn't have our board meeting in January then in the third Wednesday of the month in a year like that, since it would conflict with convention. Traditionally, our board goes down, our board representatives go down, right? That's not a requirement of everyone by any means, on the Tuesday afternoon. And then it's kind of a combination, usually most of our board members who attend because of various, right, other family obligations, day job, etc., come back to Sturgeon Bay on Thursday. I know last year we had the storm coming in that didn't turn into as big a storm as we initially thought it was, but I know we had some folks that then ended up coming back late Wednesday night to try to beat the weather just in case. But theoretically, when your registration is paid, you could stay until Friday. The conference wraps up late morning on that Friday. So again, no obligation, all board members are welcome, but it's January 16th to the 19th, 2024, just for your reference. And usually the actual WASB convention then takes place on the Wednesday. So without double checking the whole agenda, I don't think it's released yet. I would imagine that would be a portion of the day on January 17th. I think those are the high points there.
I'll just add for the new board members, it is a very good conference and convention. I went honestly for a variety of reasons. Last year was my first year with COVID and everything. I got a lot out of it, so.
And then just to play off of what Mike said, so the delegate assembly, so every school board is welcome to have a representative on their behalf attend. Beth, you've experienced that before. It's kind of a democratic process in
It is,
action. In
yeah.
fact, how would you describe it? You probably describe it better than me because you've experienced it.
Well, you're exactly right. You vote what
Resolution.
topics, resolutions would you like to bring forward in front of the assembly? And I've enjoyed it, but I also think I appreciated that people before me said, maybe there's another person that could step forward and appreciate and be our voice. So if Jake wants to be that voice, if one of our newer members want to be that voice,
Sure.
But I think in the words of one of our former board members, many of us know Pam Seiler to it. The delegate assembly doesn't set actual law or policy, right? It's simply on behalf of the school board association, WSB. Kind of the membership talks about, okay, on behalf of school board members across the state, here are the things we'd like to see. In essence, WSB share with the legislature to pursue. Again, sometimes they do, often they don't, you get the gist, but that's really
my
all it
voice,
is.
what I think should be on the
Yeah.
assembly floor.
Yeah, I think the only drawback to it is that, you know, a person misses a couple of the breakout session type. I don't think they overlap it with any of the general session keynotes. But if a person says, oh, I wanted to go to a couple of sessions on X, Y, or Z, the delegate assembly takes up, you know, basically a chunk of that day. I think that's, as I look at it anyway, probably the biggest negative to it.
So, Jake, are you still interested in doing that primary or secondary?
Sure.
All right. We get you.
I do plan to attend the convention, and I do enjoy it as well, Mike, so.
Good, then I'm putting you down as the appointment of delegate. And then, who do we have for an alternate?
I'm willing to be the alternate this year.
You are, okay, good, well, so then all we're gonna do is flip flop each other, how's that sound? All right,
And for the board, it's just been helpful to do this all in one motion in recent years. And I don't think many years ago we did it this way, but kind of like, yes, we have a person, we have a backup, life happens, right? If something happens with kids, work, whatever, and Jake says, I planned to go and now I couldn't, we automatically know that, okay, Beth theoretically is ready to pinch it if.
so I will make the motion, I will make the motion to appoint Jake Schultz as the delegate and Beth Chisholm as the alternate to the WSASD convention. And Peter Jenner John seconded that. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. So now we designate the official board meeting day. It has been historically on the third Wednesday of every month, except for in October. We sometimes kick that 1 week later because of the state budgeting process, and also in what we just talked about in January, we kick it one week later as well, because the WASB convention is happening during the third Wednesday. So it's the third looking for a motion to make it the third Wednesday of the month.
And very briefly, especially for Allison Wayne, the board did discuss a few years ago the possibility of, boy, we try not to have school activities on Wednesdays. I know a board member at that time thought maybe we should at least talk about, should we look at a night other than Wednesday? Right? I mean, board meetings across the state of Wisconsin, some are Mondays, some are Tuesdays, some are Wednesdays, some are Thursdays. All right, but in the end, when the board discussed it, at least at that time, it was like, well, yeah. We sometimes have students or staff come to a Wednesday night board meeting, and we normally don't want them to have to do other activities on Wednesday, but it's also the one night where we know we're not guaranteeing conflicts against a variety of other things. So at the time anyway, the board thought, yes, point made, but we'd like to keep it on Wednesday. It works well for the most part.
So can I have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to authorize the third Wednesday of every month to be our.
Perfect. A second.
Okay.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Jenner, seconded by Commissioner Oz to designate the third Wednesday of the month the official board meeting day. You know, and I will say, you know, there's just 2 months that it might be a little different, but that doesn't have to be. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now, the rest, approve official depository. Our current official depository is, Ms. Denise?
We use 3.
Yeah, I can cover this super quick
Thank you.
for you to take a breath since I know it's a lot of reading tonight. So Nicolay Bank and local government pooled investment fund became our official depositories back in the 17-18 year. Remember, we had a representative make a visit at one of the learning sessions. And we also had a Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative as part of that presentation, or WISC, during the 17-18 year. We kept all 3 official depositories since then and would recommend doing so again. So you see a sample motion follows. Excuse me, you good?
Yeah, I just wrong time.
I'll make a motion to approve Nicolay Bank, the local government pooled investment fund, and Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperatives as the official depositories for the 2023-24 year.
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion to adopt Nicolay Bank and local government pooled investment fund. And Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative. And for the official depositories, I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, I said and, so sorry. Yes, that's all 3. The 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So then we have authorization of investment powers.
Yep, we have those for Jake Holtz as our business manager.
I'll make a motion to authorize Jake Holtz for the investment powers for the district.
And we have a motion by Commissioner Wood and second by Commissioner Hawes to authorize Jake Holtz as our authorization of investment powers. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now we're down to the designate official newspaper, which is been the Pulse for a couple of years, I believe.
Yeah, some of you may recall the history there that initially we had indicated the Pulse and then later found out at the time, prior to the May of 2021 bill being signed, that since 50% of the newspaper circulation or more, I should say, and was paid, we couldn't actually designate the Pulse. So we had to go back to the advocate one last time. Now you see in the notes in your packet that yes, that is actually now allowable. So a motion to approve the Peninsula Pulse as a designated official newspaper for the district is recommended.
I'll make the motion to approve Peninsula Pulse as a designation official newspaper for the district.
Second,
Which one?
Tina.
Okay. We have, you were stereo. We have a motion by Commissioners Spritcook and seconded by Commissioner Jenner to designate the official newspapers of Peninsula Pulse. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So option 6, set board member salaries. This again, just so everyone realizes, this just is something that comes up every year. This isn't something that we were banging the drum to change or anything. So
You see the notes there. I'll just summarize that. So prior to May 2018, we had a certain approach that was so many dollars a meeting. Got to a point where let's just simplify that. It was less tracking for the district office, the business office, et cetera, and say, all right, let's look at, like was discussed in 2018, saying, okay, $1,200 for the president, $1,050 for the vice president, all other board members, $840. That's what we went with at that time. And I think that's served us pretty well here the last several years. Additionally, you see the note, I just talked about convention for board members that do attend convention, again, taking time away from family and work. There's an additional $100 a day stipend. Plus, of course, the district covers the registration in your hotel room, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a note. And then again, you see a motion to maintain the current pay structure, as we just discussed, as well as that stipend of $100 per day at the annual convention is recommended.
I move to maintain the current pay structure with president receiving $1,200, the vice president $1,050, and all our other board members $840 per year, as well as a stipend of $100 per day for attendance at the annual January education convention in Milwaukee.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Chisholm, second by Commissioner Wood to maintain the current pay structure as outlined. Further discussion? All those in favor?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How does that cover, like, if you get covered if you go on a training that's in person across the state? You were to select something like that, how does that get covered? I don't know if we've ever taken advantage of them, but there are lots of learning opportunities that are in person.
So I think there's, as I look at it, kind of three main tiers, and then you let me know, Jake, if I'm hitting on this or not. So one of which is the stipend approach for attendance, like we just talked about. The other piece for a board member to attend the annual convention, or if you were to go to a WASB, right, they have workshops from time to time to see stuff. Yep, those types of things.
New board members may want to take advantage of
Absolutely.
that, so I'm asking the
The
question. I
district
don't know the
pays,
answer.
yep, district covers that registration,
Yeah.
right? So if you were to see something, it can be as simple as letting me know or Ann know or the combination, and we would say, oh, you'd like to go to that? Let's check into that. We can get you registered. So the registration piece there. And again, if it were something where, oh, there's a really good, I don't know how many meetings they have, but I know once in a while, there's like a meeting in Stevens Point or Wausau, where it's kind of like, oh, just driving there for the day, depending on the time of year, if a person wanted to stay overnight, or it starts in Wausau at 8:30 a.m. and whatnot. You know, the district would cover a hotel night for you as well. So, like you said, Jake, it doesn't happen often, but especially as we've kind of gotten back to more normal operations and wanting to engage in some of these exciting topics that we discuss or hear about at the January convention, that is definitely an option. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah, that was a non-issue for years. There was nothing like that going on, so it's kind of good that we can at least talk about it.
For sure.
Any other further discussion on this? Or call the question? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So we're done with the board reorganization part of the evening, so that's good. Now let's get down to the usual stuff. So consent agenda is next. That consists of point one, approving the meeting minutes of the regular meeting of April 19th. And also the learning session of May 3rd, 2023. Point two, approving April bills, which were in the packet. Point three, approve grants and donations. Those consist of Sturgeon Bay Parent Teacher Group donated $1,500 towards the 4th grade Madison trip. Sturgeon Bay Parent Teacher Group also donated $164.35 for books and $250 for STEAM. Raybrook has made a donation to the senior night celebration. Walmart donated 65 backpacks to our elementary schools. An anonymous donation of $3,000 was made for the Rock the Dock program that's coming up June 3rd, I believe. That's the date on that. It's not written here, but I remember it. $160 donation by Sean Wattier to the high school daily living skills program. Oral surgery and implant specialist daycare clinic committed to $1,000 annually for 5 years for scoreboard signage advertising. Thank you to everyone that is involved in supporting our student programs through grants and donations. Point four, approve resignations and retirements. We have Ariel McCracken has resigned from her special education teaching associate position effective immediately. Rodney Owens is resigning from coaching due to medical issues. Shannon Fahey has resigned from her special education and teaching position effective at the end of the school year. We thank everyone for their time. Point five, we're approving the Sturgeon Bay High School WIAA membership renewal. The WIAA requires that boards of member high schools act annually in either their May or June meeting to affiliate with the WIAA. This is to ensure that our school is eligible for the 2023-2024 WIAA Tournament Series, as well as other membership benefits. The renewal should be emailed by June, early June. As a reminder, WIAA membership fees were eliminated in 2014. A motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented is recommended.
A motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second, all right. We have a motion by Commissioner Hawes and seconded by Commissioner Schultz to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Now we're down to the operations agenda. We actually kind of did point one, we didn't have anything. Point two, that's kind of what we started with.
Yep.
So now we're down to point three, which is we have the annual, we have to accept the annual financial report.
We have those notes there, but someone who can speak to this better than I can.
Yes, sitting right there.
Jake, you want to, I know there are a couple other items that popped up for history, background that board members might be interested in. Thanks to a couple of questions.
Yeah, I think a couple questions popped up with the a couple spots in the annual financial report. One basically dealt with we currently don't have our assets, our money collateralized beyond the $250,000 from the FDIC, and I believe it's another $400,000 by the state because we're a public entity. We don't have that collateral with Nicolay. Looking into it back in May of 2016, which I believe is right when there was the changeover from Bay Lake to Nicolay. My predecessor signed off that we would have collateralization 3 weeks later. That was rescinded. I don't know why. It really hasn't come up until now. I did reach out, and I believe we have a cost-free solution with Nicolay that basically works with other municipal customers in Door County. So I'm going to dig into that a little bit. Looks relatively simple on that part. The other part is just a recommendation on running payroll, which, as a reminder, last year we updated our job descriptions and duties in the business office to really separate a lot of the payroll between really from one person to 3 people to help avoid fraud. There was another recommendation from the auditor to say there should be an external person from that process approving kind of a couple of the big steps, more or less, which I am external of that process. And so right now that's me. I'm going to talk to, we'll have a new lead auditor this year. And I'll talk with them. I didn't get that chance last year. Normally I do. But so we'll have a talk with them. Like, is this what you're picturing? Does it need to be somebody like Dan, who really doesn't have access to any of that? So those were the questions that popped up. Those are the answers.
So to clarify on that, we already moved from basically 1 person to 3. Now we're looking at another overlay. So
Yeah.
for either you, Dan, whomever disinterested third party that can make sure. That's great.
It's a good summary.
That's a real good thing.
So is that their only, I know in other years, we always get a thing for that. Is that their
Well,
only?
There's so when you look, there's I don't know if they're labeled as findings, the segregation of lack of segregation of duties, and I think I did outline them here, but lack of segregation of duties, not doing our own financial reports, and one more. And those we're gonna find pretty much on all of them. We don't have the staff, don't have the size to be able to do that. We use, especially with the segregation of duties, we use you guys, that's the approval of the bills each month, just to kind of that compensating piece to that, so.
Do we have a motion to accept the annual financial report?
Can I ask a question first? So,
Sure.
Tina, you just asked that question, like that's what we get dinged on every year. What did you mean?
Well, in the report, they'll say that there's not separation of duties or whatever, and they list them. And it is because we don't have enough staff. But being that we did make some changes last year, I thought maybe those would go away, but apparently we still don't have enough staff, so.
And so like this auditing process happens every year, basically?
So an external auditor, so historically, the district's had an external audit. But I think several years ago, for a variety of reasons, we realized, hey, we need to go with a different auditing firm and went through an RFP process. And had some different folks assist with that. So I think where we're at, we're getting a much more thorough outside audit of various financial aspects of the district than we had gotten for a long time. So I think each year, Allison, I think we're taking steps. Some years like that was a bigger step than others, admittedly. And then like the business office restructuring Jake talked about, we can walk you through that sometime too, kind of what that entailed. It was kind of a year's worth of conversations and a project Jake was doing for kind of a leadership thing he was in. But in the end, they're still saying, well, you're only so big, so you only have so many different people in the business office. So you still only have so many people that can check or double check on each other. It's a small group. Again, auditors say that's normal. Although it sounds strange, right? Our district is bigger than a majority of districts in the state of Wisconsin. But still, there's only so many people, which they understand. We can't just, employ, say, 2 more people just to make them happy. So that's kind of the.
Okay,
And to know why, right, the auditors, they do say that that's relatively normal for our size to have those. They still have to report it because it's under the federal guidelines for the federal programs we have that there's certain standards. I'm not sure the exact. So we look at it, that's where we find it is, based on the federal programs. That the guideline, but we also can't. So here's the recommendation, our response, what we're doing. Just kind of monitor that on a year-to-year basis. Are we doing everything we can?
And it doesn't affect the audit report.
thanks for the background.
And this is, why, like, we never had an issue, like, when one person was doing, like, the payroll. Now it's been split up. That was just more of a proactive, thing that was done by Jake, and I don't even know if that was because of the audit or.
It wasn't,
But you just did it, which is smart.
Yeah, it wasn't, but yeah.
So back to the motion to accept the financial report.
Motion to accept the audit report.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
We have Commissioner Wood made a motion to accept the annual financial report as presented. Commissioner Jenner John seconded that. Do we have further discussion?
Actually, I got a question.
Sure.
Is there time that we can just set up and come and talk to you about all this? Absolutely.
Yeah.
What recommended fund balances might be, or, special reserve accounts that we have, like, just all the stuff.
Absolutely.
Separate from-
Yeah, we talked a little bit on that learning session night. The plan is to pull together a time where you and Allison, Jake, Mike and
Okay.
I are all available. So there's some basics, and then really a lot of that are kind of like, all right, here's kind of the 101 view of how the school funding works in Wisconsin.
Perfect.
So then you have kind of that baseline of knowledge. And actually, I think every few years, I know when you were new or fairly new to us, Jake, in that first year or so, I think you did like a learning session of sorts with some information for the whole board, is just kind of review, because it's really important, but there are things that are so complicated, even the business managers that deal with it regularly, it's like, boy, how does this really work? So, yeah, that is definitely on our to-do list for sure.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So we had a motion, a second. I don't believe we voted. First further discussion? Anyone? No, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. So now we are down to point 4, first reading of professional handbook and salary and supplemental pay guide, correct?
You see the 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs there for you, just kind of summarizing that. Right, a lot of work went into this back and really what would have been the 2013-14 school year, the year before I arrived, and some of that was put on pause. And then really my first and second year, we got the committee together and in essence looked at plans, pulled that all together and really had a large rewrite, if you will. Not so much of the handbook, but what we call the salary and supplemental pay guide. We pulled some things out of the handbook, put them in there, and it's just been a little bit more user-friendly, if you will. And then we meet about that every year and share information. So really, that's kind of the background in the first paragraph. The second paragraph are that while not being addressed as a part of, this is just a first reading tonight, or what would be in the consent is a second reading next month. There are 3 other items. So we know last month we acted on teacher compensation, at least moving them to the next rung on the salary ladder. And then there's 3 other topics that we're not taking action on yet, but the board has discussed them multiple times. We're awaiting state budget information, whether a potential salary ladder adjustment, or Jake has another thought that he'll share with you another time about something called potentially longevity stipends to accomplish something very similar, basically a summer pay adjustment, and then that PTO concept and or incentive. Those are not a part of this, but they're on our radar, right? I put them in here not only to remind you, but remind the teachers that are tracking it. The board has not forgotten about it. So as I finish off here, the last couple of sentences, as a first reading, no formal action is required of the board at this time for either the handbook or that salary and supplemental pay guide, but we would conduct a second reading in next month's meeting on June 21st. And again, for Allison and Wayne, a brief history of how it came to be here is that's a part of what.
So the next point, because we're not acting on that.
Correct.
Forward. So the next point we have is first reading of the support staff handbook, which is similar.
Yeah, similar. I'll read this one since it's a little shorter and it's very specific. So we know we review this handbook annually and aligning with some of the challenges that schools and the business office have discussed this year. And you've heard about it in some of our meetings. The main change recommended at this time deals with how sick days are awarded, especially for new support staff members. So a section entitled Other Unpaid Leave was also updated to have a tiered approval process when unpaid leaves extend beyond 5 days. So just adding some more layers to that. Again, as a first reading, there's no action tonight. We would take a second reading and approval next month. I think in a nutshell, one of the types of scenarios that presented themselves, as we know, some of the challenges around hiring, especially hourly staff positions. And again, I know some members of the board are involved with hiring as well. So if you bring in a new, say, support staff member, and they, in essence, have their allotment of, let's say, 10 sick days for the year and tear through them in the first 3 weeks of the year, and then maybe aren't working for us a month later, our business office and principals have kind of thought, ooh, that probably needs to be tweaked. So for staff, we're not looking to take days away from anyone or anything like that, especially our returning staff, but for new staff, kind of breaking that into what maybe for tonight, I'll just call a couple of chunks. So during the course of the year, they still get, the number of days. It's not that the boards or we're recommending take that away, but not award the full allotment right at the start of the year, knowing some of those people, may burn through them and not even be working for us a few weeks later. So anything I missed there, Jake? I know him and others and Ann, I know too, have weighed in to try and help tweak that language to make it, not too complicated, user friendly, but address the issue. That's all I can think of, President Stefani.
So again, informational on that one. So now we're down to approve the 2023-2024 health insurance plan.
Yeah, we'll be hearing more about this over the next year. You've heard from Jake as far as budgeting, but at least for this next year, it's pretty vanilla in the grand scheme of health insurance, that's for sure. So I will read the brief notes here. There are no substantive changes for the district board or staff to navigate this year aside from the 3.9% increase in cost. Options will be shared in the board meeting packet, et cetera, et cetera. So we can get into other pertinent points as we look to the future. I think very briefly as a review for the full board and new for Allison and Wayne, we're going into the 5th of a 5-year agreement with Prevea that initially bought down a large reduction as they look to buy a larger book of business. And then we had 0% increases for 3 years, a 2.9% increase for this year and a 3.9% for next year. So for sure, we're looking at a larger increase, and Jake's talked about that a little bit in a couple of learning sessions before for 2 years out, but we're still in very good graces. And that's really, that savings has allowed us to do a few of the things that we've done the last few years. So that's kind of a summary there. A motion to approve health insurance plan offerings for 2023-2024 is recommended. Anything you would add to that, Jake, for now?
Nope, that should be interesting. We'll keep you up to date as we know.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion?
Are you gonna like shop around?
Yes.
And maybe I should say too, we are a member of a cooperative, so a consortium for many years, now a cooperative. So the 4 mainland school districts in Door County, so we're not just on our own as a district. The 4 districts, so Gibraltar, Sebastopol, us in Southern Door are all together with that, so it's a larger group to assist in a variety of ways.
And motion to approve the health insurance plan offerings for 2023-2024.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Haas and seconded by Commissioner Wood to approve the health insurance plan offerings for 2023-2024. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're down similar topic, but now for dental insurance for the 2023-2024.
Yeah, you see the notes very similar to health. It's really even simpler and less of a fiscal impact to the district than the health piece is. Again, there was recent conversations, as you see. So a motion to approve the dental insurance plan brings for 2023-2024 is recommended. Make anything you would add there?
You have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the dental insurance plan offering for 2023-24.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Jenner to approve the dental insurance plan offers for 2023-2024. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Point 8, approve the CKLA core knowledge language arts curricular material adoption.
Apologies, I see in the notes there, the background document, I missed one parenthesis. So yeah, CKLA stands for Core Knowledge Language Arts. So as you see that, that's what that is. So literacy review team has been working together since late fall to research and evaluate several sets of core literacy curriculum materials. Again, this is part of the ongoing literacy work the last few years you've heard about. The end goal of the work was for the group to choose a program that was not only based in the science of reading research, you're probably seeing that in more and more articles and news stories, and supported our goal for continuous improvement in literacy, but also complemented the phonics curriculum that's been implemented this year in grades K-3. The team followed our established review process and worked to understand the underlying models, pedagogies, and materials of each product. And again, we have a curriculum review process graphic in the packet. Having clearly identified the outcomes we expect the curriculum to address enabled us to examine each program as a whole, while also considering the latest research and learning experience of our own students. After completing the process, the team has identified Amplify CKLA, again, Core Knowledge Language Arts, as a clear choice and confidently recommends implementation of CKLA in grades K-5 for the start of the 2023-2024 school year to round out the end of year 2 of this district literacy initiative. So a motion to approve Core Knowledge Language Arts, also known as CKLA, for grades K-5 is recommended. And maybe I should just note what this also means, board, is once that, yes, the board agrees with the team's finding, that then allows Director Weber and principals, et cetera, to start ordering materials. So they wouldn't order them yet until kind of the official stamp of approval follows their process. I think Commissioner Spricka had a question.
Is there a certain number of years that you stay with this program, or we reevaluate in 3 years or 5 years, or?
Yeah,
like, how
good
does that
question.
process work?
Historically, school districts had, no matter what the subject was, some sort of rotation, right? 7 years is what I saw back in my principal days. But then it got to a point, not only because of cost, but for other reasons, it was like, well, to say a particular academic area grade level is up for review and new materials just because that isn't really wise either. So I think based upon the state work and I think local priorities, we've kind of navigated that. I don't know, Director Weber, is there anything you'd like to add? It looks like Jake was going to say something too. So we don't have like, it has to be this many years for each area. Sorry, Jake, you were going to say something too.
What we've seen change, especially since I've been in school, and over the last decade is where we would buy, in this case, maybe phonics books. You think of the lesson books that you had in your desk in grade school. Those aren't anymore.
Right.
It's licensed based online. So whereas we could take those books before and have them for 15 years, right? As long as, right, they're going through that review process. Now we're looking at 6 to 8 years of licenses.
And those are
Same
things
cost.
that are updated.
Yeah.
I would imagine annually or however it works, and I got it, from what I've read, the staff's done an incredible amount of time and research and recommend. I'm not questioning it, I'm just wondering, like, the process, so, with licensing, like, there's always a renewal cost every year, or maybe it gets updated.
So
Is that
our next
built
step,
into it?
with Director Weber and I, and really she's pulled about as comprehensive information, especially in costs that I've seen, from a process like this, is just kind of looking through what's gonna be the cost benefit of each of the scenarios, whether we pay on an annual basis or something up front.
Sure.
So that would be our next step, in this, so.
Thank you.
Couple interesting things to note, in this case, agree with everything that was said so far. In this case, we, as Jake said, have a yearly or annual option, a 6-year or an 8-year. If we opt, let's just say for an 8-year, any updates that happen in the interim between the time we adopt and the time those 8 years are up, we would be grandfathered in, so, right? So that's good news. And then I think back to your original question, it used to be, I think, that with textbooks, right, we would put subject areas on a cycle, if you will. And every so often, as a classroom teacher, we would assume then that, oh, we would get new textbooks. We don't necessarily need to do that, nor do we want to do that, but what we do want to stick to is a review process. So not an adoption process, but definitely put each of our departments on a cycle, if you will, so that we're revisiting what our goals are, if we're meeting those goals, if our students are successful, if the materials are still meeting our needs, and if in the end we decide we need to do an adoption or go a different route, we'd be prepared to possibly do that. But in many cases, we find that, nope, things are working really well. Here are our next steps to continue.
Thank you.
On a related note, you'll hear a little bit more next year about a math audit. So Principal Mark Smullen kind of has taken the lead on this. When we talked with, we kind of refer to him as our data guy, Eric Larson out of CISA 6, someone I worked with in my principal years. He's been up to Sturgeon Bay to meet with us before. He has quite a background. He met with us a period of time ago, and some of the quick wins and things he identified that would match with some of what our team has identified on the math front. Not everything can be the same or the top priority at the same time, as we all know. Literacy has gotten a ton of attention and very worthwhile, as we saw with the kiddos tonight. At the same time, it's like, okay, you're going to hear about some math stuff coming as well. So just a couple of examples.
Okay, so can I gonna call the question, can I have a motion from someone to?
I'll make the motion to approve the core knowledge language arts, CKLA, for grades 5 or K through 5.
Perfect. Second.
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Spricka and second by Commissioner Jennerjohn to approve the core knowledge language arts CKLA for grades K through 5. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we are down to point 9, approve the 2023-2024 CISA 7 service contract.
In some ways, this is similar to like a WIA. It's an annual approval. We're already members of CISA 7 because of our location. I won't read through that, but Colleen Tim, who's their agency administrator, did give, this has been a conversation with superintendents 2 different months, that yes, they're changing a little bit of their cost structure, and yes, they were increasing their particular administrative fee. She would maintain, and I shared some of that information from other CISAsville, that it's still pretty low compared to the other CISAsville. I just wanted to share that information. We also had done a 2-year deal last year that got us a better rate for last year, and this year kind of paid up front. So by doing that saved us a few dollars. And then we're adding a few additional days of service based on what Ben Weber and the team realized we need. So really, that's what we have. So a motion to approve the 2023-2024 CC7 service contract is recommended.
I move to approve the 2023-2024 CISA 7 service contract.
Okay.
We have a motion by Commissioner Chisholm, second by Commissioner Haas to approve the 2023-2024 CISA 7 service contract. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And now we are down to the approvals of people. This is going to be a while here. This is the approval of a high school boys basketball coach.
Yeah, the original packet said that the process was in motion, but we didn't have a recommendation. So when you got the updated here or highlighted in red, as Mrs. Demise has done for us, so it's easy to follow. That's the version I'm going to read from. So we see in head boys basketball coach Zach Goblish recommendation. It says Principal Nerby and Athletic Director Michael recommend Zach Goblish. Zach Goblish had previously coached the JV2 boys basketball team down at De Pere for 4 years, prior to being hired as our high school English teacher and our head JV1 boys basketball coach this last season. Some of the players Zach coached at De Pere, we're told, are members of the varsity team that was undefeated and won the Division I boys state title this past winter or spring, really. A motion to approve Zach Goblish as our head boys basketball coach is recommended.
Move to approve Zach Oblish as the head boys basketball coach.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Schultz, second by Commissioner Cruz to approve Zach Goblish as the head boys basketball coach for the upcoming year. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we are at 11A, which is approving a middle school reading interventionist, Megan Erickson.
Yes, I'm familiar with your name since she's already working for us, but in a different capacity. Ms. Megan Erickson started teaching in Milwaukee and Waukesha prior to being hired here in Sturgeon Bay schools. Initially, Ms. Erickson pursued teaching science. She returned to school and earned her master's of special education. She observed inadequate reading skills that students in most restrictive environments possessed. While working in Waukesha, Megan received training with Viterbo's workshop model, Love and Reading. As a TJ Walker special education teacher, Megan understands the importance of guided reading and how it impacts students across the board. Ms. Erickson enrolled this summer in letters training for special education experience and skills, make her the best candidate. A motion to approve Megan Erickson as the middle school reading interventionist beginning with the 2023-24 school year is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve Megan Erickson as middle school reading interventionist.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jenner John, second by Commissioner Wood to approve Megan Erickson as a middle school reading interventionist, beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we are down to B, middle school special education approval of Rachel Miller.
So in teaching, when a person's in a place long enough, it's one thing to have students, it's another thing to have the children of some of your students, right? My dad, after many, many years, even had a few grandchildren. That tells you, you're in a place long enough. What I have found cool, although in my 9th year, already seeing some of our grads who have gone to college, some in some cases got experience, and are being hired by us in various positions, which is super cool. Rachel would be another person on that list. I'll go to the notes prepared here by our admin team. TJ Walker review team recommends Ms. Rachel Miller as a 7th grade special education teacher. Rachel Miller graduated from the University of Madison in May of 2020. She's worked for our district as a long-term substitute, filling in for the reading interventionist position this semester, speech and language teaching associate, and she's been a special education teaching associate. Previous to working for Sturgeon Bay Schools, Rachel volunteered as a student clinician overseen by graduate level speech therapists to research, develop, and implement therapy in college level autism students. Rachel worked with students through trauma-informed instruction, attended bi-weekly seminars for consecutive years to study research while applying it to her volunteer work with a local Madison elementary student. Ms. Rachel Miller is a Sturgeon Bay graduate who's getting married in June. She looks forward to serving her community and contributing as a full-time staff member. A motion to approve Rachel Miller as a middle school special education teacher beginning with the 2023-24 school year is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve Rachel Miller as a middle school special education teacher beginning with the 2023-24 school year.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wood, seconded by Commissioner Haas to approve Rachel Miller as a middle school special education teacher for the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we are now done. C has been
Yeah.
taken off, so now we are.
Hoping we'll have another recommendation next month. Mark and Lindsay and others are still working on that, so hopefully we'll have one for you. Likewise with D.
Yep.
Okay, if I just keep
Yeah,
rolling
go
there,
ahead.
right? That was listed, still have a vacancy, and Mark and Keith are looking at that a couple of different ways with straight up Spanish or a combination Spanish and EL as candidates present themselves. They've talked to some folks, but we don't have a recommendation for you as of tonight. Again, we'll see, hopefully next month. All right, next up, E, a name that's, I think, familiar to at least one, if not more board members. So Joseph Lalazern. Mr. Joseph Lalazern is a graduate of Sturgeon Bay High School, class of 1984. He spent majority of his adult life working in business and leadership positions in Minnesota and California. Recently decided to relocate back to Sturgeon Bay and pursue now a career in K-12 education. Mr. Lalazern graduated from Bethel University in St. Paul, Minnesota with an MBA. While at Bethel, he completed all the coursework required to academically credential himself for a secondary education position in mathematics, including completing his student teaching experience at that time. However, he elected to pursue a career in higher education. He's then worked for both profit and nonprofit sectors and currently serves as the Chief Financial Officer at Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego, California. Mr. Lalazern first reached out last year to inquire about both the math and business positions that we had at that time, Mr. Murray writes. However, he was unable to relocate at that time due to the time of year we were hiring. Mr. Lalazern's background in business, both private and public sectors, would be a huge asset to our students as he's able to provide application to the lessons that students would learn in business education. We've already been in contact with CISA 6 to discuss alternative licensure needs and start the process of obtaining the required certifications for him to teach business and marketing here. While speaking with Mr. Lalazern's references, it was evident that he comes with a high degree of professionalism, attention to detail, and a desire to quote, get the job done, and to quote, meet and exceed expectations every time. Part of the interview process included Mr. Lalazern spending a day at Sturgeon Bay High School, sitting in on various classes, meeting with staff, and learning more about what our students need to be successful. Mr. Lalazern has shown interest in running our FBLA, or Future Business Leaders of America, student organization, and supporting our school in various ways, both inside and outside of the classroom. Motion to approve Joseph Lalazern at Sturgeon Bay High School as the business education teacher beginning with the 2023-2024 school year, again pending his emergency license issuance from DPI, is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve Joel Lalazern as the high school business teacher beginning with the 23-24 school year, pending emergency license issuance.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Jenner, second by Commissioner Wood to approve Joseph Lalazern as a Sturgeon Bay High School business teacher beginning the 2023-2024 school year. This is pending emergency licensing issuance by DPI. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're down to point F, second grade limited term teaching position for 2023-2024. Ann Herring.
Yes, thank you. Principal Katie DeVillers is pleased to recommend Ann Herring for the second grade teacher position at Sawyer Elementary School for next school year. Ann has been a teacher associate in our district for almost 3 years. During this school year, she also has served as an internal substitute at Sawyer and worked very hard to support students and staff in her dual role. Ann's positive attitude, willingness to help in any capacity, creative problem-solving skills, and dependability are all qualities that she brings to her everyday work. Ann shared that, quote, her greatest pleasure in teaching is the light bulb moment when students' eyes light up because we finally understand the concept we've been working on for weeks. We know that our students will have many light bulb moments and will learn a great deal from Ann Herring. We're excited for her to join the second grade team at Sawyer next year. Principal DeVillers refers to the limited term teaching position briefly in her principal report. And there's also in your board packet a one-page summary documenting the upcoming staffing adjustments and reallocation to support additional coaching following the principal report again, referenced in the packet. You've heard a little bit about this other meetings too. In a nutshell, just so you have a sense of what that involves before we get back to the approval of Ann. So your staffing would increase by 0.2 of an FTE for next year and then decrease by 1.0 FTE beginning with the 24-25 year, how that all fits. And again, you can see that summary in the packet for more detail. Back to the moment or the topic at hand, a motion to approve Ann Herring as a second grade limited term teacher for the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve Ann Herring as a second grade limited term teacher for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Haas, second by Commissioner Chisholm to approve Ann Herring as a second grade limited term teacher for the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we are down to point 13, which is approve a student information specialist.
Yes, and again, one of those other positions, you see their alternative teacher position, right? You've heard from Lindsay Ferry quite a bit on that. You've seen some in my reports. Hopefully we'll have someone for you, bless you, next month. All right, back to 13, as President Stefani accurately said. So Director of Teaching and Learning and Technology, Jen Weber, is pleased to recommend Amy Lattenbach, a familiar name, for the Student Information and Data Specialist position. We know Amy is currently working in the Sturgeon High School office and has served as our district registrar since 2021. Amy has worked in a school setting since 2008, brings with her extensive previous experience in data verification, state monitoring, reporting, DPI requirements. Additionally, Amy's communication skills, relationship building, time management, and meticulous organization make her a perfect fit for this position. And again, continuing with our team. Amy has shown she's masterful at handling stressful situations, working both independently and with teams, that she's hardworking, dedicated professional. Amy is excited about the new opportunity to continue to grow and develop her technical knowledge in this data specialist role. We have no doubt Amy would be a strong addition to that teaching, learning, and technology team in this capacity. So a motion to approve Amy Lattenbach as the Sturgeon Bay School District Student Information and Data Specialist beginning this summer, July 1st, 2023, is recommended.
Move to approve Amy Lattenbach as Sturgeon Bay School District Student Information and Data Specialist beginning July 1, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Schultz and seconded by Commissioner Cruz to approve Amy Lattenbach as a Sturgeon Bay School District Student Informational and Data Specialist beginning July 1st, 2023. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now down to point 14.
Our final staff recommendation, hiring of this evening anyway. So a Sunrise School Counselor, you've previously seen Gary Grawl is retiring from the school counseling work to do some other work down in the valley. Director of Pupil Services, Lindsay Ferry, and Sunrise Principal Katie Smullen are pleased to welcome Dakota Lando for the school counselor position at Sunrise Elementary School, starting with the 2023-2024 school year. Dakota graduated from the University of Wisconsin Green Bay with a bachelor's degree in psychology and human development. She quickly realized her desire to help children and support the growth of our youngest learners. Dakota earned her Master of Science degree in educational psychology with a focus in school counseling. Dakota completed her internship hours for her licensure with our school district and has always wanted to return to the area and pupil services team here in Sturgeon Bay. Dakota has served as a secondary school counselor at Crivets High School for the past 2 school years. Excited to bring her expertise and passion to the students at Sunrise Elementary School. And Lindsay and Katie, right, welcome to the team, Dakota. A motion to approve Dakota Lando as a Sunrise School Counselor beginning with the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Dakota Londo as the Sunrise School Counselor, beginning with the 23-24 school year.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Schultz to approve Dakota Londo as the Sunrise School Counselor beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we are at point 15, approve the 2023-2024 compensation for returning non-teacher employees.
Our last open session action item of the evening. Last month, the board approved returning teacher contracts, as I alluded to earlier. We've also discussed three other compensation related topics for professional staff that are on the radar, which again, dependent on how the state budget process plays out. And you see, I listed those again, showing our staff, those are not forgotten at the board level. This month, now moving on, the board is set to act on the 2023-2024 compensation for our non-teacher employee groups. I'll list them below. So as in the past, the board is either able to take action on all non-teaching employees at once or take separate action on each of the three categories, if you will. Again, I've seen it done both ways in my time here. Recent years, it's been one combined motion. Business Manager Holtz, as you have again seen and heard multiple times, has prepared a document with the information on the three prepared options in the packet. Also talk through these as recently as the May 3rd learning session. So three different scenarios as are usually presented. The first one, as Jake has explained before, is a 4% option with again some background there. The second one, 4.25. And the third one Jake has prepared and talked about is 4.5%. Again, relates some information. You can see the breakdown below for the financial summary of the three options. So kind of as a base option at the 4%, what the total increase is for non-teaching staff, or the salary total, excuse me, the total as we think of some of the different appropriate add-ons. And again, then you see what the difference is for each of these. So that's why there's an NA under 4, and you see a 4.25% increase would equate to the salary of that number, the total difference, and then an additional $7,469 or $7,469. Sorry, I should read that out for anyone watching this from home. And then 4.5%, you see what the increase or the total salary increase, then that actual total cost increase, and the total difference of $14,938 versus the 4%. We can have a discussion in just a moment, but first I'll read the final sentence here. So we have kind of a baseline there. So the way we've got it written and the way Mike and I talked it through, a motion to approve compensation for returning non-teacher employees as presented with a 2023-2024 percentage increase of, and if someone is going to make a motion can just fill in the number they're choosing, is recommended. Any other pertinent background that we talked about, Mike, that beyond what Jake has shared with us in previous meetings? Otherwise, obviously, as always, points with motion discussion.
What's CPI meaning?
This is what Bryce said.
Okay.
It's a measurement of inflation. CPI is the percentage used by schools across the state. There's a portion in state law that if we had a teacher union, we would have to be looking at that a little bit more closely. So that's why it's used kind of as a base comparison for wages.
Yeah, I missed the May 3rd meeting, but why are you saying that CPI was 8.01 and it's down to 4.9 now?
So that 8.01, going back to right, using the state, if we had a teachers union, right, from December 31st to December 31st, or January 1st to January 1st, that measurement point, that is, that's kind of when we talk, whether it's WASP, WASB, whatever, that's kind of the measure.
So it's based on last year's calendar year then, which, yeah, was higher than.
Yep.
There's a certain point, good question, Roger, where all of a sudden the emails, the different groups start sending out for those of you that, are working with a bargaining agency, remember, here's the number. And so in essence, that's just kind of push out like, okay, there's the number. So when other groups are talking, they say, okay, that's there. and as I shared with President Stefani and shared at the May meeting, from our executive director at WASDA, they said basically school districts are falling into one of three kind of camps, if you will. One is, let's wait and see what's going to happen with the state budget. Although they also shared the wait and see still usually means having teachers take the next step on that process, much like we did with the salary ladder, right? The second group is, okay, let's look at it. And again, we don't have a salary ladder for our non-teachers, as you all know. Somewhere around that 4% give or take. Right, and that's kind of what we're talking with that group. And the third group, they said by far the least popular of the three approaches in the state, but there are districts doing that are looking at more at that kind of 7-8% range, which again, although yes, that makes some staff happy. Obviously, we also know that we have, an ongoing obligation to the overall fiscal health. And especially with not knowing what's happening with the state budget, that would probably, as Jake and I have told you, would be, overselling things and, in our roles as your advisors, that wouldn't be appropriate either. So I'll also review again with a couple of new board members, and not everyone can make it in May. Remember, with our operational referendum cycle, historically, prior to where we're at inflation wise, we have budgeted, for all the teachers to move up and all the stuff Jake has explained typically before, as well as usually a 2.5% increase. Given the inflationary situation we were in, Jake sharpened the pencil, and again, we had some federal dollars and some different things going on, right? And was able to say, all right, we can look at that we can justify a number in, say, that 4%. That's why he's been sharing that in those projections and walking us through that. Like, yes, that's not the 2.5 that's been more traditional because of the context. That's where we're at in that 4% neighborhood. Anything I'm missing as far as the high points you've shared before?
I would just, again, I'm blaming on the new people who haven't heard. Going through various projections based off of state budgets, kind of what we're hearing, worst case scenario, what I have plugged in. Starting, I think, way back in January or February, was what would it look like if we stepped everybody up and did 4%, so about half of CPI, based on what we were hearing, increasing our school revenue by $350 per pupil over the next 2 years. And so I plugged that in, and we were in the black both years, this coming year, 23-24, a little bit more so than the second year. Again, that 350 is probably worst case scenario. A little bit more optimistic coming back from my conference last week, but that's really not based off of anything other than, yeah, they know they need to do something a little bit more, even the state legislature on the state budget.
Are our wages in general competitive?
Yeah. Yes, we have a tool, Forecast 5, that takes where we have to report to the state. It's public information, what everybody's salary is, their position and whatnot. And it takes it and puts it into a nice graphic form for us. And we examine that as a tool as part of the process.
Sure.
Yes.
So we're not having problems finding people, they're not leaving, going somewhere else, because it's just another quarter.
There's certainly movement.
Sure, there's gonna be some natural movement, but
Yeah.
in general, we're competitive with.
We've been
Other
able
districts
to
and
fill
types of
positions for the
positions.
most part. So
Okay.
you are spot on, and obviously the county, right, all of our employers, whether in town or the
Sure.
county, are dealing with it too. I think recruiting to Door County, there's pros and cons for sure. The type of people that are interested in working in a school system, a place like Door County is appealing to them. But I mean, we're not gonna kid you. I mean, the other board members have heard this, but we have certainly seen, like is reported in the news, a decline in applicants.
Sure.
So I think as we've said, is there a shortage? Well, there's certainly a shortage of qualified candidates. We've been able to fill positions, especially, most of our classroom positions, if you will, in the past. I think, the principals and directors realize and are seeing a couple examples, like some of the stuff you see listed in the, well, we're hoping to approve someone for tonight, like, okay, maybe we'll be able to have something for you next month, maybe not, and then we'll have to see how that plays out.
But these are the non.
Exactly. Yeah.
That we're.
Yeah.
Doing right, yeah.
And just to reiterate, we had a long conversation in the learning session on this, that this Any of these, Jake has the money for this, this is not we're not spending money that we're hoping to get from the state. That was a key point, because I didn't want to do that, right?
So
Didn't wanna-
basically, like, at any of these increases, you would still be in the black.
I think President Stefani talked about money in the till that night, right? That's a phrase you sometimes use. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if I used it that night, but yeah, I did,
I think you did.
don't, yeah. So anyway, that's just important to notate. So further discussion or anyone ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay,
Okay, I move to approve compensation for returning non-teacher employees as presented with the 23-24 percentage increase of 4.5%.
I will second that. Further discussion?
I don't know if this is the time or the venue, but I'm just gonna be forthright in my opposition.
What are we giving? What have we got? What did they get in the past and what have we done like the teachers? What are you looking at there? For the knowledge?
So the average, so we stepped everybody up with teachers, knowing that depending on how the state budget works out here, we would come back and look at that. That average currently sits at about 3.5% for teachers. Okay. For those return.
But there's a but. We have not looked at this category of employee since when?
I'm not sure. Question.
The question is, we didn't.
So for the
we
non-teachers,
have not increased
a year
their year.
A year.
But that increase was,
So there, nobody, on. That's up for approval for salary increase tonight is on a salary ladder like we have for the teachers. So there wouldn't necessarily have been a ladder to look at, generally, there's individual requests as we've seen. Various times over the past, how many ever months, sometimes a group like we did with the, handbook, the sports staff handbook, where we kind of reset that starting wage. But and that first reading was tonight. So maybe not a direct answer, but an answer.
But we give them a percentage every year. It wasn't like they were.
Non-teaching staff, since I've been here, we have gotten a percentage, yes.
That answer your question.
I think it's, I guess, I'm opposed to the 4.5 also. I think main thing is we don't know what the state is gonna do. I think we would, even though we'll be in black with either one. With the state budget. As an unknown. Put it down.
I would be in opposition also.
We have to realize that every percentage that you add on year over year, you've reset the base. So you do 4.5 now and do 4, you're setting yourself up for future compounding percentages.
I guess the reason that I was advocating for that is given, the current economic climate and just the fact that things are more expensive because we're in this period of.
We're also headed for a recession. That is also a reality. And then what's gonna happen? That's what we're up against. And then trying. There's rumors that could be a lot worse than a recession than the last experience too.
Has there ever been a discussion of targeted raises? So when you have this theory of 4.0 across the board, right? The person that's at the 80,000, 4.0 is a lot of money. But the $35,000, whatever it is, it's a very small amount. Yeah, so I don't know how we close that gap a little bit, so they all have more of a living wage.
I guess-
So I saw that through my 24 years in the service, right? All the admirals, 2%. Wow, they love that. 2% for the E2 is still on food stamps, right? So they started doing these targeted, you know. And I don't even know how you break it apart, right? If it's, you know, someone between 30,000 and 50,000, it's a certain percentage, and this is a certain percent. And I get that there's a different, maybe education, but then there's also some longevity and things like that to think about. So I always struggle with the flat percentage for all, right? Because that includes you guys, right? The staff, the superintendent, the clerical staff, everyone, right? From the cooks to the custodians and techs, like everyone that's not a teacher. So I don't know. I don't know how that.
We haven't had that discussion here, certainly, seen stuff done, similar to what you're talking about at other districts.
Sure.
Certain ways to do that, yeah.
Well, if
And I'm not trying to get us off base here.
If I may clarify, you'll, as you're on the board longer, you'll see that we absolutely do that in the
Okay.
salary ladder. We've had years
For
where
the teacher.
for the
group.
teacher group, not this, okay, so we're kind of going off on a off ramp for a second. We have absolutely done that. I can give you examples, for example, beginning teachers, we raised because we were way below, you'll see in.
Below market,
meetings,
basically.
Well,
Sure.
Jake does a good job of saying, here's the trend line for what districts in our area are paying, state trend line, all that kind of stuff. And we were below that trend line, which means if you're a new teacher and you're, you know, $5,000 less at Sturgeon Bay, are you gonna even apply, right? So we address that. There's been years where top of the ladder didn't get a raise. There's been years that, you know, they have received that. And we definitely look at the different steps in the ladder individually as well. Just so you know, it's not, we don't just.
Okay.
I mean, have we given cost of living increases that affect everyone? There's been some years that happened, but there's been other years that did not happen, and it was targeted. So we've done, and that's just been while I've been on board. Some of the longer board folks could speak to this at a much better detail for what was done, you know, 10 years ago, or I don't know. It's more. So I guess this. I second the motion, so I'm set enough. Further discussion? Mr. Mason, I think on this one, we should probably have a roll call vote.
Okay. I'll start this one with. Or against with Commissioner Sturgeon.
No.
Commissioner Schwartz,
No.
Commissioner Cruz, no. Commissioner Stefani,
Yes.
Commissioner Jenner,
No.
Commissioner Chisholm,
No.
Commissioner House,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wood.
No.
Motion failed. All right,
Okay, so I will make a motion to approve the compensation for the returning non-teacher employees presented with a 2022-24 percentage increase of 4%.
Second.
so we have Commissioner Jenner made the motion, Commissioner Chisholm seconded the motion to approve compensation for returning non-teacher employees for the 2023-2024 school year with a percentage increase of 4%. Further discussion?
Understand that we're competitive and we have applicants and they're not all leaving the door. I can definitely support 4%. That can be considerable for some. So,
Further discussion? Okay, I think same thing again, Mr. Meeks, can you do roll call vote?
Commissioner Sprinkle.
aye.
Commissioner Schultz.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Stefani.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenner.
Aye.
Commissioner Chisholm.
Aye.
Commissioner House.
Aye.
Commissioner Wood.
All right. And thank you, everyone. Point 16, received draft of the 23-24 board meeting calendar.
Yes, this is just an informational item for you. Saw the grid, and I think the version in the packet, something got a little funky with the column, so I got that already cleaned up and ready for next month. We didn't officially set the meeting date of the third Wednesday until tonight, but I have that all set for you. We talked about it. I'll just summarize from the notes here so you can start to plug those into your calendar for those of you that for work and family purposes need to do that, even though the board officially approves this in June. So you'll see the change in the October date from the 3rd to the 4th Wednesday. I then didn't plug in a learning session the following week, which would have been November 1st, very similar to how we did it this year. In January, we talked about that. The board meeting would actually move up rather than back. So that would be January 10th would be the board meeting, the week before convention. And then again, like usual, I've got the June learning session on there, but we try not to there's something especially timely. If we knew for sure everything was going to be set with the state budget by then the board could have more of a discussion that night about some of those compensation items, but we don't know that's the case. So informational item, no action requested. I think that's all I have there, President Stefani.
Okay. Then we are down to the report section. So I'm gonna go back to this. We haven't done this in a long time, but I will at least mention, does anybody have anything on a legislative venue?
I was just inquiring about an hour ago, so nothing.
I will point out the joint finance committee is doing the closed session doing the recommendations for each budget area. Education should be up later this month. Shared with Dan at that point. What I'll probably do is use that as a base for any projections going forward. My guess is when you approve the preliminary budget next month, it won't be that. I'll mention it, but we'll get into that next month. So, yeah,
Good. CISA report? No. Committees or seminars, anybody who's? Okay, now we are to the admin reports, high school, so Steve Derby, come on down.
All right. Hello, everyone. All right, I'll try to keep this short and sweet. We're down to just the final couple weeks of school. So real quick, we just had a track meet on Monday. And I just want to read something real quick that our track coach, Troy Hunsager, had sent about that, because I think it's pretty cool. He just said, and this was sent earlier this week. So he said, I must say last night's meet was well run as it could have been. All the event workers did an excellent job. I never heard one complaint all night from the other coaches or athletes. I can't thank them all enough for taking the time out of their day on a beautiful night. The people upstairs getting the scores uploaded, announcing them, to the parents that helped clean up, just everyone involved. Thank you. Make sure that they all know that. And to the athletes that never gave up until we were on the bus, what a team we have. Watching those kids run back and forth across the field to cheer on their runners at the end of the relay was a great example of how good of a team we have. I'm just happy to be a part of it. I just say that because one of the cool things about that track meet was at the end, when we were doing the relay races, when the kids were doing that and passing the baton, our kids were literally sprinting along with them, just cheering them on, encouraging them. And it was just really cool to see that kind of team spirit and the kids doing that. So it worked out really well, and the team did a great job. The other thing I just want to quickly mention is graduation is coming up. Many of you have RSVP'd that you'll be there, and we appreciate that. It's always such a fun day. Again, Saturday, June 3rd, 10 a.m. The commencement ceremony will be right in the gymnasium. Some of you are coming as board members, some of you are coming as parents, some of you maybe both. Well, all of you both that are sitting around here, that would be. Yeah, we're gonna follow that with, the boat parade right after again. This will be year 3, the 3rd annual, which makes it a tradition, I think, in my book. So we're super excited about a couple changes this year, just so you know, with that boat parade. It does follow right after the commencement ceremony, which starts again, like I said, at 10 o'clock. Time limit, we'll be out of there by 11. That's the goal. And then the boat parade will be run down at Madeline Marina starting at 11:30. And so we want to encourage anybody listening to come out and cheer on our graduates. It's really a fun tradition of them in their caps and gowns going around the bay there. And so the difference this year, though, is students are able to kind of pick some of their friends to be in the boat with. In the past, we've kind of done it alphabetically, so they're paired up, but we thought it'd be really fun for them to maybe be able to kind of celebrate and enjoy that time based on some feedback with those that they're close to. And so we're looking forward to that. So come on out for that. Anything else? Yeah.
How many graduates are in this class?
82. So we have 82 in this class, and then next year's class is a bigger class. We have 121 in our junior class. That's our big one, and then it kind of sticks more in the low to mid 80s. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Principal Smolin is coming on down. Always makes us smile to think about graduation, doesn't it?
Some days.
Well. Fair enough, Dad, but I'll be there in a couple of years.
Exactly right. Just want to share with you all, June, so two important dates, May 31st, we're having our 5th to 6th grade transition, and June 1st, we're having a geography night. In addition to those, we're gonna be having all our students that are coming into grade 6, going into grade 7. We're gonna be starting a summer reading program. So you're gonna be parents who are receiving information with this program, and then there's gonna be incentives in the fall, starting in mid-August, early September for students that participate. So I hope to see as many students not only sign up for summer school, but can get involved in summer reading, because it's good for us to bridge that gap and keep working on reading throughout the summer. So instead of just shutting down. So you're gonna hear more about this. It's coming out. Staff just finalized everything today. Our books are set. We hope to collaborate with our local library too. So there's gonna be some good things coming up. And as we expand on this in years to come, I think it can only grow. So that's our big thing. And obviously, just like Keith announced, we don't have graduation in 8th grade. We just got a ceremony, and that's June 6th. And our entire school is going to come, and then parents that attend are going to receive. Each student is going to receive between 2 and 3 tickets for their families to come. That'll be an auditorium. So we're going to make. In the years past, it was just only the 8th graders and families, but now we're going to build this around our entire school, so they can all see the awards given out and make that our culture. Make that our culture. So everybody sees this. So,
What time of the day are you doing that?
that'll begin approximately at 10:30 and finish at about 10:30, 10:45, and finish at about 11:45. Time towards the end of the day. It should be a lot of fun. So thank you.
I think the 2 secondary principals, as Katie Smolin comes down, are gonna have a contest to see if the 8th grade program shorter or longer than high school graduation. So I look forward to the outcome.
It's very short. It's field trip season at Sunrise, so we are going to Potawatomi State Park, library, Crossroads, all sorts of great stuff happening. So thank you for all the families supporting that, and yeah, all the teachers, all the hard work putting into getting us outside and enjoying here as we push to the end. That's all I have.
Excellent.
Thank
And I hope
you.
you haven't had any text messages from the babysitter. So,
No, I can't be doing all this.
all right, that's good. Principal the Villers.
Hello. Just 2 quick things. One is told you about our end of year celebration. I hope some of you come and see what's happening, a little bit more laid back, a little less structured, lots of activities for kids. It's on May 25th. And although we don't have a graduation at Sawyer, we do have a cool thing that happens on the last day of school where the 2nd graders leave by giving everyone a high five throughout the whole school. So I invite you to come and see that. Really a cool thing. Thanks for your support all year.
Thank you. Director Ferry, if you're not giving up, are you going to yield your time?
Maybe, field my time.
There we go. Director Weber, what do you got?
I just have one really quick thing. I just wanted to thank you for that, your patience during that literacy showcase. And I feel bad because I didn't introduce those teachers. They put in a lot of time and effort. So as you were looking at them from right to left, that was Mrs. Molly Cornell. Our acting teacher here was Mrs. Amanda Wilkie, and then Mrs. Crystal Ruddy. So just wanted you to know who you were looking at. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
All right, I think that's
Okay.
You heard enough for me tonight, so if there are any questions.
thanks for what you do. Big
You
guy?
see my report, I have 2 items I'm adding, but when I email out to the whole staff and forward that on to you, you'll see that. One, we had a meeting about some youth apprenticeship stuff. Keith and I attended, working through a few challenges. Hopefully keeping overall progress there as we're hoping. And then the other one is, I'm not an auctioneer, but I will do the YMCA Dining by the Bay thing next Thursday night. So you can imagine MC/auctioneer without the cool fast talking. That's me.
Good.
Excellent. So we'll see what happens.
So now, we are, to the point that, closed session, could I have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion to move to closed section per 19.851C. Considering employment, promotion, compensation, and or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental bodies has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Consideration of non-teacher compensation not already covered through action earlier in the meeting. Number 1, select food service employee compensation. Number 2, individual request from a returning unclassified employee. Action may take place in closed session on closed session topics. And we will return open session.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do we need to close the regular board meeting before we move to go into closed session?
Thought we could do this and then we adjourn, we go back and open session.
Okay.
Sure. I thought, but I could be wrong. Is that
Correct.
anyone who's better at procedure?
That's how we do it.
Okay. Thank you though, Beth, because Lord knows I could make an error there, so thanks. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Jenner, John, second by Commissioner Cruz to go into closed session 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. I will consider a non-teacher compensation not already covered through action earlier in the meeting. 1, food service employee compensation, and 2, individual requests from a returning unclassified employee. Action may take place in closed session on closed session topics, and then we will return into open session, point B. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, roll call. Yeah, so sorry. See, this is why that you gotta bring stuff up with me.
Give me any credit.
Roll call vote. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, let's start on the other end. Commissioner Wood,
Aye.
Commissioner House. Aye. Commissioner Chisholm,
All right.
Commissioner Jenner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Stefani,
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz. Aye. Commissioner Schultz
Aye.
and Commissioner Speaker.
Yes.